I once sat in a $14,000 plane seat that my senior executive great aunt generously finagled for me next to this horrible little British boy who screamed, kicked, whined because his mother told him he had to buckle up. Now, you might think that it's cool to not care what rich people do, or that a temper tantrum that happened over the Atlantic has absolutely nothing to do with you. Why does it matter that the child threatened violence against his mother? Why does it matter that the father ignored them both? Why does it matter that the mother had another small future baby tyrant in her hands, and that the child only quieted when I very politely mustered up the ability to say, hush? I realized in horror, as I was waiting for my dessert to be brought to me, that this child was being taught that how he behaved and how it impacted other people was of no matter to him, that he could afford to be careless. This child is set up to inherit more power and money because of his station than most people in the world. And because of this lack of character, he's not going to be able to do anything good with it. And it wouldn't matter because people would look at him moneyed, well-educated, adorable, and give him pass after pass after pass. That's the halo effect of wealth that combined with this social reluctance to talk about caste and to talk about class and to say, oh, it's not polite to talk about money, we end up giving the wrong people the benefit of the doubt over and over. So this is where I confess I have avoided the White Lotus because I am deeply uncomfortable with the fact that Mike White is looking at the power and wealth that I grew up surrounded by. But I started season 3, and it is reminding me of the searing work of Jane Austen and Charles Dickens, and it's what we need for our time. The rich people I grew up with are obsessed with protecting this illusion and this self-image that they have of themselves as good. And it's an indestructible image that they have to hold on to because if you look at it too closely, it will have major political ramifications. And they are willing to destroy anyone who tries to hold a mirror up to them or cut them out of their lives. Now, is that a vast generalization? Yes, I grew up with some lovely, down-to-earth, generous people. But the vast sector of this society does not get there and does not stay there because of self-awareness and good self-reflection and character. This is a class of people that are willing to strip this country for parts and then drown the little pinprick of guilt they have in a cocktail at a Four Seasons somewhere. And by having the camera linger a beat longer than we've been trained is polite, Mike White makes a great point. It's becoming apparent to some people now, but we as a society are desperately in need of looking directly at the rot at the center of all that money protects. Because that rotten center does not remain ensconced in the business class seat of a British Airways or in the exclusive resorts. The unaddressed private fears and anxieties of this class of people have a ripple effect of dysfunction. And they become everybody else's problem, and normal people cannot buy their way out of the problems and the mess that these people create. They will exploit and shrink the middle class that they want to absorb the very laws that they don't feel they have to live up to. They are happy to gamble with your life so that they can spread misinformation and get a tax cut. We are in our own Great Gatsby era, right, where we have private equity firms and individuals who run virtual nation states through social media platforms that rely on a certain level of exploitive policy to continue. And you're being asked to live with the careless decisions of people who think Panera bread tastes like hospital food and people who scoff and think working is fun because they get to play in their dad's office. If we are to survive this or challenge this in any meaningful way, we have to break this spell, and that is where art comes in. Jane Austen and Charles Dickens were masters at taking the social norms of society and holding it at arm's length just long enough so you could see the absurdity around it. You see how the superficial social norms have a real political job to do in that they protect and they make unassailable the people with the most power and privilege. The truth about who these people are and what these people are doing is easily hidden in plain sight as long as they follow the right social rules. Social norms are about assigning status, right? And the issue with playing that game is that you get so busy trying to either be acceptable to high status people or pass as high status people or show that you are still high status, but then you don't stop long enough to ask if these individuals are worth believing or trusting, if what they are giving out to people in terms of status is even worth it. Social satire is that spell breaker because it shows you how arbitrary some of these social norms are and what they're actually seeking to protect. It turns the overhead light on and it exposes the game. And the ruling class relies on you not getting the game or you playing the game. And in a Squid Games-like situation, no one wants you to realize that the game and the system depends on the consent of the governed masses. By lingering frame by frame on the cost of this wealth, it also punctures those who are inside of it, who think that maybe wellness or their self-awareness or the fact that they're different will save them from the rot that pays for everything. As ever, with any sickness, the first step is acceptance. And I'm glad I get to watch this show while reading Sarah Wynne Williams' book, Careless People, which is about the way Facebook became a political machine for the most powerful people and how careless they have been with it. I'm also hosting a show called Apathy is Not an Option. I talk about policy. I talk with the experts. We do talk about economic justice. That's on the slate and coming up. So take a listen. I have been taking notes on each of these characters and I have thoughts.